I'm going to call this April meeting of the Hopewell Borough Council to order. Reggie, if you could do our sunshine statement.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by a notice mailed to Hopewell Valley News and the Trenton Times, posted on a bulletin board in Borough Hall, and filed with the Borough Clerk as required by law.
If you're able to rise and join me for this pledge of allegiance. Allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mayor Kennedy,
Here.
Mr. Buda,
Here.
Mr. Fuller,
Yeah.
Ms. Hook,
Here.
Ms. Steeler,
Here.
Ms. Weaver, Ms. Valenius.
All right, we'll acknowledge you here, but you were muted, Heidi.
Here.
There we go.
There we go. I thought the space bar would work. It didn't.
Yeah. All right. Good evening, everyone. Both online and in person here for our April meeting. First substantive thing on our agenda is the report of the Public Works and Water and Sewer Directors. If anyone has any, on council has any questions for our administrator on those, now will be the time. All right, next item, substantively, is, I'll just pause a second. Sorry. We do try to do a update on the sale of our water system in every meeting. This one don't have a particularly large update to bring, other than that Paul Wood and I met with New Jersey American about 2.5 weeks ago. We get some information about their rate case. It still is expected that the June-July timeframe is when we think the closing would occur, and we expect to have more information to share in the coming weeks about the transition. Next, we've got our first of several public comment opportunities for members of the public. I'm going to open the meeting to the public. The Mayor Council will take comments first from members of the public attending in person, then for members of the public attending the meeting via Zoom. Speakers will be limited for this first time. We'll try to limit to 5 minutes. No immediate action be taken on any public comment issue. We'll do our best if we can to answer things or respond if we need to do more research or get back to you. To make a comment or ask a question to the meeting via Zoom, please push the raised hand button, and when we get to the online folks, we will bring you over. If you would like to speak in person, just queue up to the front, to the podium, state your name. We don't need your address, but if you want to say whether you're a resident or not would be helpful. I'll also note that in addition to a second public comment opportunity we have at the end of the meeting, we do have several public hearings on ordinances, or at least one public hearings on an ordinance. So if you're actually going to speak or make a comment on ordinance 914, which is our ordinance to allow certain types of theaters to have liquor licenses in the borough, I'd suggest you do it then. It could be part of the record on that ordinance. So with that, opening for public comments.
I didn't want to go first. Melissa Cookman, resident, 12 years, as of tomorrow or last week. I have a question about process. I'm sure you're all aware of the frustration that many people have had with it. We're not talking specifically about 57. It's okay, talk about process. The way I understand it is the planning board's job is to make sure that everything that was written in the agreement, that the developer is compliant. It isn't an opportunity to change things. So my question is, we're told that the public will have an opportunity to participate, but in fact, the participation is, I don't want to say pointless, but moot, because no matter what we say, the planning board is not in a position to do anything unless we find something that is not compliant. So I don't understand, or is that the standard? There's no opportunity to, before it goes to planning board, for the public to comment on these, except when you attend a council meeting and they're discussing, we're adding a 4th floor, and but it doesn't really give the chance for people to understand that. Not a lot of people come to these meetings. If other people had known that we're gonna discuss putting a fourth floor on that building, there's a disconnect for me as to how the public can actually affect change, in these circumstances. And I really don't understand, because we're all fighting, not all of us, there are many people who are working very hard and finding things, and it's meaningless because they're doing what they said they're doing what, the council, told them what they can do. That's my question.
Well, I think will be difficult, taking off I'm a land use attorney, that's what I do for a living, and being very tempted to want to be helpful, and do my best to explain a very challenging, and complicated series of intertwined processes, but not get too close to saying something about a project that
Yes,
for those of you who.
we're talking about Castoros.
So if you were to talk about Castoros, there at the moment is nothing to talk about, though I am pleased. I will say that we have, since you did ask about that, we did have assembled a committee for that. So when the owner of that property is ready to bring us something, then we will be ready. And that includes Councilman Budu, who's an architect, the head of the HPC, myself, our professionals, and the planning board chair.
And so that sort of leads me into part 75 of this question. The redevelopment thing, I'm sorry, I'm losing my words here, says certain things. So if Castoros comes, are they obligated to follow that same thing, where they can have limited parking? Because that's what our redevelopment thing says.
So
That you can do this, this, and this. Or I could be completely wrong.
each redevelopment project, or all redevelopment projects, that's the way the borough decided to proceed, are subject to a redevelopment plan. That's kind of like the zoning ordinance for
Okay.
the project. So it could be on a property by property basis. So like the lumberyard, for example, there's a redevelopment plan for the lumberyard.
Okay,
That plan essentially created zoning for just that project.
okay, so it is separate.
And yes.
So how then would the public be able to participate in that part of it? Because if council again says, no, 1.5 parking spaces is fine, or there should be 5 parking spaces for every apartment. When does the public have the opportunity to participate in that discussion and affect change?
I can take that one if you like.
Yeah, so basically, council is the body that makes ordinances.
Mhm.
And the planning board has to follow those.
Yes.
Or just like a developer, I mean, that's their guidelines, that's why they can't just say, you know what, I think you shouldn't have blah, 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 or this, whatever. You can't do that, it's say, is it in accordance, and that's what the professional attorneys, is it in accordance with? So the time to go over those things would be when the ordinance is made. And I think that's a council visit. That's what council visits saying, oh, well, what are all the details here? Oh, we have some problems or issues with this. And
So did
then-
the ordinance say something about?
Yes, the ordinance,
Sorry, okay.
any ordinance talks about details. It's not just a blanket statement, thou shalt be.
Okay, so I have to.
You know, it needs, this is what's going to happen, and here are all the rules. Now, some ordinances are better crafted than others because there's more time put into them. Bigger towns or cities will spend a lot, it's like a line item, like every little item will be discussed and that's usually for, tell me if I'm speaking on attorney, but usually when cities and towns have more infrastructure and paid full-time officials, they get to spend more time crafting an ordinance,
So my question is, when does the public get to participate?
right? When the ordinance was.
That's the only time.
Right,
So at the first reading, we can say,
correct,
we don't like this,
correct,
or we love this, or whatever.
correct.
Well, and just on a forward-thinking basis, it's not just first reading, there are ordinances, so it would really be the second reading and public hearing.
Okay,
There is also, while that is a council function, the planning board is involved in it. So there's a planning board meeting in between the first and second readings that council does of the ordinance, where the planning board reviews it as well.
The planning board reviews it, but not as part of their meeting.
Yes,
No?
absolutely.
They do?
Yeah, it's,
Okay.
they do something called a master plan consistency review.
Okay.
So they have a hearing as well, on it.
So I understand all that, thank you, but it still doesn't answer the question. Why present that the public can participate at the planning board meeting at the site review? Because it's pointless.
Hmm.
I don't
Because
understand.
things, I can't mention any particular project, but there are things that happen at a planning board meeting that all of a sudden you start seeing the atmosphere of the planning board and even the client that say, you know what, we could change that or do that, even though.
But a
we're going
developer
beyond.
doesn't usually do that, Paul. They've gotten what they wanted or they wouldn't have signed the agreement. That's my opinion. I recognize that.
But it can
But
happen, and it has happened where people all of a sudden, they wanna be either, and I'm not even talking about big development, I'm even saying.
are you talking about the public or the developer?
The person, the applicant, whether that's.
The applicant,
A residential,
yeah.
I've seen it happen on residents saying, yeah, I guess we're not really required to do that, but it will make it better, okay, I guess it's a
Okay,
win-win.
so I can understand, that, but there's just something missing there where we can't really, it does not feel like true transparency and participation. Because it's already done. I mean, and at the same time, the planning board, I think they did done a fabulous job of saying questions only. Because most of the people in that room have comments to make, most of them. So I think just question only is great. But also we're told, however, we will have the opportunity to share our opinions and things at the end of the meeting. But the meeting ends at 10 o'clock and we haven't even finished at 10 o'clock. So there really never has been the opportunity for the comments, positive, negative comments. And I think that's a problem.
Melissa, if I can comment on that, sorry, really, I think the next meeting that's planned at the elementary school is gonna be the main opportunity for that type of forum.
But will it be that the meeting ends at 10 o'clock?
I think,
Well, because if the meeting ends at 10 o'clock, it is most likely that there will not, because it's always at the end of the meeting.
well, I don't think there's my understanding is that all the topics have been covered already.
Yes,
And so it will be truly an open forum for questions and opinions.
okay,
and-
so at the last planning board meeting, that was discussed at length, that we need to have the opportunity to just ask our questions. So I'm not sure that's what they're doing. I'm should not any more sure, I think, than you are, that we will have the opportunity
Yeah.
for comments, but
It's only gonna be comments from the public and feedback from the public at the 15th, that's what.
no, absolutely, I'm sorry, but my understanding, and if anybody here, if I'm wrong, please speak up. We still have questions. We did not get to answer all the questions. One gentleman didn't get to finish his presentation or his questions. And so the idea is that we would continue this process, and schools were never discussed and other items were never discussed about this. We've been focused so much on the parking and traffic issues. So to have it all open to comment, that's not what is,
And there may be a need for another meeting after April,
but-
maybe a May meeting.
only if they're letting us continue asking the questions.
Yes, and I think that I believe.
But again, then there's no room for the comments, so we have to wait until it's all over for the comments. So there's just something in the structure that is,
Yeah, I agree. And it's a very complex project and there's a lot of strong opinions about it. So that's why I think as many meetings as are needed.
yes, but only useful meetings, not, I don't want a meeting where 3 hours, we're all gonna say, we hate this idea, or we love this idea. That's pointless. It's done. It's a done deal. I get that. We're not getting rid of it. It's happening. We're trying to make it, as a community, many of us feel, makes it better, and we've not had the opportunity to do that. So I'm hoping the planning board, and my understanding was, we would be asking the question, we would continue this questioning thing and not just go to comments. Are my 5 minutes up? Because I got a lot of other things. I'll come back later. What? I'm done?
We haven't been watching the clock, so just keep,
You can go.
yeah.
Okay, I have a question about the road repairs, and is the gas company who dug up all our streets responsible, or are we responsible?
Jerry could probably just on
The gas company is responsible for,
So they're gonna come and repave all the streets?
we're working with them now, we're engineers working with them to get a plan. It's gonna be very, very disruptive, as you can imagine, there's a lot to take, but we're gonna come up with a plan, get it out to the public.
That's awesome.
And it's, in many cases, it's, more of a full pave as well. So
Yes.
we extracted on some of the earlier projects, we got kind of full streets out of them and,
Great, that's great, because it's like driving on both like.
yeah, no, it's,
Especially after the winter. And I don't want to use this word, but, the driving through town, if you, take off the, rose-colored glasses that most of us have, because one of the reasons we love Hopewell, it's starting to look pretty shoddy. The thing with the planters, some are done, some aren't done, there's dead things, nobody seems to care. There's places where trees were cut down and not replaced. And it isn't, one of the things we're trying to do is get more businesses to come in, and, we need to be more beautiful. We need to find ways to, make us stand out. I'm not sure what the answer to that is, except I do know the planters thing makes me crazy. Just doesn't make any sense. There could be beautiful things planted there all year round. And the replanting of trees, I know we have a whole program for that, and on East Broad Street, like, what do we got? And there's wires hanging everywhere, and so.
well, there's not a lot we can, on the wires, I know we've over the years made a couple of requests to, it's usually Verizon, most of the things are
I forget.
unused telephone wires, and unfortunately, we did eventually beat them, not on this issue and on a tax issue in court, and we don't have a lot of goodwill with them. But having said that if there's specific examples, we should bring that up again with them.
Okay.
It's
Well, seminary in East Broad, there's just a big
Yeah.
giant.
Yeah.
oil
No, that is helpful.
stuff and all that stuff.
Uh,
I just want our town to look as welcoming as.
no,
Yeah.
much appreciated. And Sherry, maybe shade tree, talk a little bit, we do try to plant as many trees as possible. We have a budget for it, and something we can look at increasing. On the county roads, we are, like, tell me if I have this wrong, it's actually the county that's responsible for the trees, and we ask, and we can ask more, and more specifically perhaps.
Street, yeah.
But for those are the ones people see. Frankly, when you're coming into town, with one exception, you're on a county road.
Right.
I saw their trucker the other day, actually, a Mercer County shade tree truck, and so I'm hopeful.
And the other quick question is, the school, Hopewell Elementary School, flashing lights are on 24/7. They're just flashing 24/7. I don't know who,
Oh,
it never stops.
I live across the street from there, and I saw people people from the county working on that.
Okay. Because, yeah, the other bit has been for at least a week.
no, it's, not,
I didn't know who did that.
Sue probably knows this, the crossing guard literally has like a key, like it's
Yeah.
1812.
Well, they need to
Turn it on and off, but if
Their lamp.
it's malfunctioning, that's helpful information, we can check with the county, see why.
Yeah, if you could just check, cause
Yeah.
it's, yeah, like all during spring break.
No,
we had-
and I assume that does not mean that people are driving extra slow all the time then,
Oh, yeah, of course, no,
no, thank you.
thank you.
Mayor, just as a follow-up, and we were made aware of that in all last week. and
Okay.
DPW had talked to the county, and the reason the county began help to address that. I don't know if it's been addressed, it's complete at this point, but I know the county's been working on that.
Thank you.
Susan, Florida resident for 21 years this month, which was wild. And so today, I live across the street from that flashing light, and today there were 3 people with the door open looking at it. So I thought actually it was in an attempt to slow people down. I thought it was part of the overall traffic calming.
It would have been bad timing since it was spring break though.
Yeah, it's actually been going on longer than spring break.
And I noticed it today, or I noticed it over spring break.
Yeah, no, it's been going on
Yeah.
for about 2 weeks before spring break, and I thought it was part of the plan. And generally, people who are cutting through our town don't know when school is, so. I wanted to know if there was any update on the question I asked at the last meeting about putting a mechanism in place for reports from experts and things to have to be submitted to planning board before the meeting. Has anything happened with that?
So, following the meeting, I spoke with our planner who is working on implementing that. She told me that she would do that. And my guess from your question is that that was not experienced at the last meeting.
I don't know, things aren't.
I guess the challenge at this point, my guess is that there's, I do watch the meetings for parts of them, mostly to make sure that computers work together. But my guess is that the project is at the phase where there's not a lot of new things being introduced, or if it is, if you're seeing things at a meeting that you don't think were on the website,
You know, I'm just not sure, right? And I'm trying to stay on top of it, but I'm just hopeful that for all things in the future. And I think just as we've experienced just here now, there is a lot of confusion about process, whether it's for this particular process or other process. And I know everyone here is deeply committed to transparency and open communication. And so however that can continue to evolve, and you know, the weekly emails are great. But even more clarity on, you know, the planning board stuff and what's coming up and things like that. And so my understanding of what the meeting on the 15th is that we're still working through questions to the experts. And whenever all those questions have been answered, then it becomes the point where the public can, as the chair of the planning board says, make your case. But to Melissa's point, the actual process has been obfuscated. That's a big giant word that I learned of my kids' SAT practice. But it's when those of us who were here during the first and second readings of the amendments, the ordinances that allowed for a 3-story building with only 1.5 parking spaces per unit, and then another ordinance was passed for 4 stories. There were people here saying 4 stories, we are not comfortable with it. We would like to see other designs. We would like to see before this moves forward. And the message that was told entirely by this planning board to us was entirely to the public from this council was when it gets to the planning board, that is the time. And that is actually, we are finding an inaccurate piece of information. Because now, as you all know, the developer has simply followed the laws that this council has passed. And so for those of us to come to the planning board and say, we believe this is an unrealistic parking spot ratio for our town, or we believe that a 4-story building is not the appropriate size and scope, the only response the planning board can give and the developer can give, the developer says, well, I followed what the law said. So many of us feel that we're caught in a sort of catch-22. We're trying to be informed, we're trying to learn, and we're trying to follow the processes that we are taking from you. So more clarity on that would be great. Moving forward with any other development project or any other projects that are coming down the pike. I think those of us in this room now understand it's every single time an ordinance comes up, we have to read it line by line by line by line and make these meetings go on for 752 hours and frustrate people in council because we're asking such detail-oriented questions. But it does appear that this is the only place. And so, so I think that's where a lot of the frustration is coming from.
I can make a comment. So I'm actually working on with Ryan, 2 things. Well, the accessible dwelling units and how that works with zoning code. But another bigger project is cleaning up our zoning ordinances. And because I've been on both sides, an architect and this, just so you know, and it's even more complicated than you want it to be, but a lot of these ordinances, zoning codes that towns get like ours are borrowed from other towns that had them, that had maybe more money. You know, I'll say Montclair, New Jersey, right, where Stephen Colbert lives, someplace like that. And then we inherit that code and it has 40-foot setbacks. Well, guess what? We all know Hopewell. We don't want 40-foot setbacks. We want 20-foot. We want this, you know, street, curb, sidewalk, tree, porch. That's what Hopewell's about, right? So even when I was on planning board the first round in the early 2000s, I said, what do we do to make this code belong to us? What I was told at the time was that it's very expensive attorney time, the professionals at that table, very expensive to change, to update all those. So that's one of the reasons why these codes have stayed in place. And sometimes the codes are exactly the wrong thing and we're stuck with them.
But Paul, what I'm not talking about existing decades old code. I'm talking about the process
I understand.
for these new ordinances that were passed within the past
For
2
example,
years.
like the parking, 1.5,
That's right.
that is a standard, you won't find it just here.
It's actually not a standard.
Well, I know there are others, but I'm saying that is not I think.
It's the Rutgers side.
Right, you can see it in other towns, it's 1.5.
Yeah, I don't want, I
Yeah,
didn't
I
have to
think-
debate which law. Yeah, my comment is about clear communication about process. Because you don't want us all thinking that you all intentionally tricked us, but there are a lot of people that are like, what on earth happened? We were told in a council meeting, this isn't the time. This isn't the time. It'll be at the planning board, and we get to the planning board and we're told, oh, it's what the law is, the ordinance is. So once again, just continually stressing the need, like, for clear communication, for non-literally speak. God bless AI tools now that can be used to assist things, to generate effective communication that then can be checked by an attorney, that can be read closely by all members of council, not just relying on the professional, because it takes all of us, you know. So again, just seconding what Melissa's saying about the process.
Before you finish, I do think, as often is the case, your comments are well received and quite helpful. I think what would be helpful, and I will just, in a way that's appropriate, make sure this happens, but you know, there seem to be, look, there's no one literally on this panel, many of us watch the meetings. There's no one here that's participating in them, or frankly should be, or whatever the board instructed, frankly, is what's gonna happen the next meeting, is what's gonna happen. So what I will do is I'll ask the board attorney to summarize for us, so we can communicate out to the public, look, X is going to happen on the 15th. And if it goes on, the next meeting will be on Y
Right.
date and X location, just so that there's some better clarity what
That would
people
be
can
great.
expect.
That would be really wonderful, like agenda, the way the meeting, like the order of operation
Yeah.
of the meeting, because when we're even told, like, this is your chance to make your case, we're like, well, what does that mean? Are we allowed to use PowerPoint? Do we have 5 minutes, or can we take 3 hours like the experts have taken for the, you know, there's zero clarity about that. So however we, you know, can have the opportunity to prepare well, would be greatly appreciated.
I'll ask or I will have someone ask the board attorney to make sure that,
Thank
and we
you.
will get that and put it into our regular kind of communications out from the board.
Perfect. And so I know there is a first reading of a bill tonight. There will be should make my comments about the first reading of the bill at the second.
So,
Yeah, that's right.
yeah, so, yes and yes. So my general, you can make comments about anything at any time. When there is a public hearing on an ordinance, that's on second reading, that is technically what makes up the record on that. So the council can hear comments from you on any topic at any time, including at first reading. It's a terrible idea, particularly frankly, in advance, because as maybe everyone has noticed from time to time, if there are substantive changes that come up during that discussion at the second hearing, if they are substantial enough, and almost all of them are, any type of change to anything, for the most part, we have to go back and reintroduce it, and not say start again, but have another second meeting on it. So it's actually helpful to get them, the only thing I would say, if there is a, the one ordinance tonight that is on second reading, if you have comments on that, you should do it, in.
No, but I would prefer to do my comments on the first reading of a bill at the next part of public comment. Can I do that?
Oh, sure,
Oh,
later in the
that's
meeting,
okay.
absolutely.
Yeah, okay, perfect, great.
Ryan, can I just one, yeah,
Yes, sorry.
just one comment, on kind of summarizing what Susan just said with what Melissa, I think what I was hearing the greatest concern was the misunderstanding of the process from the beginning of when do we voice our concerns. So my suggestion would be, because obviously there are going to be other redevelopment projects coming down, that maybe we can work on some sort of very clear document of, what and we can put that on the website. Just so the public knows for the next time when they can have those substantive discussions, and challenge issues in a more meaningful way.
Thank you. I think that's helpful. And, you know, I'll speak generally and of the many frustrations I personally have, you know, that, I'm not saying that things would be, this is an area where I have some expertise and certainly as we go forward, we will learn from how things were done and look to best practices and make any improvements we possibly can, particularly ones that we have possibly experienced as part of some of these earlier processes, and 100%, 100% do that. I think that's an excellent thought, particularly that interplay between the ordinances. I know it's not. Look, I'm a land use attorney. Have I had as of right site plans not go well or be denied? It does happen. It's not that it's impossible. And I, on any subject, encourage everyone to get their comments out to whatever board that is, whether it's this body or the planning board, even if there are no variances needed. In general, there are things that they can do in general. But Heidi, to your point, the interplay between creating the zoning ordinance and what happens at a site plan review, it is complicated, and I think we can do more to explain that and encourage participation at relevant times in different ways. So thank you.
Even I was a bit confused about the process at the beginning, I admit, as a council member. So I think it will really help.
Jerry and I talked about this, that it would be really helpful to have just a general how does government work overview. And he has a really excellent comprehensive document on this that I think is ready to go. So we're at least 75% of the way there. We can add some of these things in there. So he already had something that addresses all this.
Right.
Thank you. Come on.
Hi, I'm Lori Saporito, resident of 42 years, which means by Allen standards, I'm still new. So I do have questions about the development of that. I'm sorry if you've already said this, but I was reading through the ordinance and I was just curious. They were talking about a small subcommittee that formed to meet with the developer in the beginning. And I was just wondering when were these conversations started and who was on that subcommittee?
I don't think. Deb, can you answer? I mean, I believe this has gone well before.
Couple of years, right? Yeah, there was Krista, myself, and David Mackey. So
No,
wasn't it?
I thought you were talking about the planning board subcommittee. I think
No,
that
we're
was.
talking about Hopewell 47 thing.
Well, then let's be specific. So what document were you looking at?
I was looking at the ordinance that you passed in December. The one that has 5 signatures, you're not signed onto it, but everybody else signed it.
What was the ordinance number?
So this is the amended, so when you say
This is the one
ordinance,
that's
this is
allowed- It had all the things that the developer's allowed to do and all
so
that. kind of stuff.
the ordinance approving the redevelopment plan, is that?
Yeah, I think that,
Yeah.
yes, the one in December of 2025.
Okay,
Okay, I'll get back to it more.
Got it.
So do you know
I think that's helpful.
when it started or who was on that committee? Was it all council people or were there other people outside of the council on it?
No, it was,
So this committee was council.
yeah.
And the conversations, are they open records? Like, are these things that people have access to what was discussed?
I'll let Art speak to that. My understanding is that the reason those are done in that way is because it's a negotiation. and-
Yes, yeah, the law allows, under the municipal land use law, to have these type of meetings where they're not in essence public, so there can be a free exchange of ideas, and that happens. And I was a planning board attorney for 20 years, happens all the time. This is not just here in Hopewell, it's statewide. You see that, and so there can be discussions such as that, but the ultimate, there cannot be necessarily items that are in stone. I mean, it's still up to the planning board to vote on everything. It doesn't take any jurisdiction away from the planning board or from council, but, yeah, that is permissible all over the state of New Jersey to have meetings such as that.
And maybe just to reflect more on your question, so I think this might take some research, because this has gone back, that the property owner has brought several different developers over the last 10+ years
Okay.
to the borough, at various points with, suggestions to move forward with various projects. We could, it would take some doing, but we could see who's been on that, over the course of years. I'd say myself personally have not been, frustrating myself, because at times, yeah, but we can work on that and get back to you.
Just curious mostly about this redeveloper, because I'm wondering what the give and take was, you know, like what did this redeveloper want that we gave into that maybe wouldn't necessarily have happened? I also was wondering, where are some of the developments that this redeveloper has finished, so we can go and see how it runs? Because, you know, when he was talking about the little kitchen garbage and that they put out, and, you know, I know at my house we get animals. So, I'm just curious as to where they're existing.
There is an actual list, on the website of his prior projects,
Okay, I guess I have to get the name.
Yeah.
No, I haven't seen it.
Well-
Do you know?
Bringbest.com.
Okay, all right, thank
Well,
you.
Laura, I want to be very careful, because it just continues on to Hopewell 57 questions. I might step out, and but I will
Okay.
stay,
I'm not answering.
because this is what I do know is that there is a document on the website, and that I can ask, because we know what your email address is, that
Yeah.
someone, possibly for myself, email you a link to this document
That'd be
that has, that someone had obtained from them several months ago, or maybe over the summer, listing some of their projects that you can check out.
Okay, so I do have two other Hopewell 57, so Ryan, I'm not asking you anything. What do we do, you know, there was that traffic report that was given, and then there was that huge discrepancy between the data collected and the conclusion, which reminds me of a lot of, drug reports. And, so what do we do about that? Like, I don't know who it was, in the borough who accepted that report. And there were so many errors in that report. Do we still accept that report, or do you have somebody do a different report? I mean, it was night and day that what was in the data was not reflected in the conclusion. So where do we go from there? You can't just accept a faulty report.
There were two.
Well, hold on, I'm gonna suggest that our attorney, what I wanna make sure it doesn't happen is that it sounds like you have some very
Right.
specific and excellent comments about a document that the planning board is reviewing. And I wanna make sure that it's not on, I don't say deaf ears, I don't mean that the people on this board aren't gonna listen to it, but because it's part of a planning board process, maybe I'll have our attorney maybe just clarify. Because we wanna make sure that your comments get to the right place and are acted on. And it may not be something that
Yeah, this.
the board minus me and Paul here can act on, so
Yeah,
Artie, maybe
no,
you can speak to
I
that.
agree. I mean, I think I understand your question.
Yeah.
It's a valid question, but really the jurisdiction for whether or not that is accepted or rejected is with the planning board and not here. And I would caution everybody up here, not to comment on, especially, you know, pending matter, that obviously there's a controversy over traffic report, or parking or whatever. That is really the purview under the municipal land use law of the planning board. They have the jurisdiction by state statute to accept, reject, question, whatever, any report.
Okay, great. So even though somebody who was hired by the borough accepted it, we still talk to the planning
Well, when
board.
you say accepted it,
Well, he used that word. He used that word. Yeah.
you mean,
So, okay, but I'll talk to, I'm happy to talk to the planning board. And then the one other thing is, I know that everybody on council has their liaison, like I know Deb, I don't know if you're still with the library, but you used to be with the library. And Sherry, you were with the fire company. So with that special relationship that you have, especially with the fire company, I'm concerned that we do not have a fire truck with a ladder that goes that high. I mean, I've talked to quite a few people in the fire department. So is this a borough council issue? Because I would have hoped before you signed your John Hancock on the ordinance, these things would have been discussed. Or is that something that the planning board now is responsible for understanding?
Art, I have a whole report from the fire marshal with updates on this. Is that something I can speak to or no?
is it a public document? mean, I've never seen it. I don't know how it originated with regard to this project. No, you can't speak about that tonight. No, I mean, it's a valid question that you can ask at plenty.
Okay, I mean, these are things that I don't know, I would have thought would have gone into the decision making, but you know.
I mean, I've never seen.
They did and they are.
Okay, so then my one comment is, I'm just gonna ask you to please don't allow anything to rush on this. This is gonna change this town forever. Forever. And it's obvious that some people like it, and it's obvious that a lot of people are crushed by this. And I'm particularly concerned about my group of senior people who, you know, they paid off their houses, they bought their houses for like nothing. I think my house should qualify for affordable housing for what we pay. And, you know, when those school taxes keep popping up and everything, and I've got a lot of single friends who I don't know how, you know, once you're on a fixed income, it's a challenge. So I'm just asking you to also keep that population in mind. I understand affordable housing, and I understand the need, but there are people who in town, you know, they paid for their homes already. And we bought it at a good time, so that's all. Thank you.
James Higgins. I've only been here 10 years, so I'm still a newbie. And Lori's comment reminded me that 2 years ago when I asked if you had done reference checks on Jeffrey Albert's projects, and then I indicated that I had done that. I also asked the council if they had reached out to Bordentown to talk about the failed project. Did anybody ever do that?
Yeah, I mean, this is really getting into the nitty gritty of this developer, I would assume, and you know, it's really.
It's a yes, no question.
I'm sorry?
It's a yes, no question. I asked in a council meeting, if you had followed up and done a reference check. They hadn't. I asked if he provides you any documents on projects that he worked on. He hadn't. He then produced a document, right? And I asked you who followed up on those and did reference checks. And I'm asking 18 months later, did you ever follow up on any of those projects? Or did you contact Bordentown and the mayor or the person who wrote that article? It's a yes, no question.
Well, if no one's prepared to answer that, I'll suggest that we, particularly since the committee that was working on this includes members that are no longer on council, administrators that are no longer here, that there's not a perfect repository of that information here, and that we'll take a look and see if we can get you.
And so the projects that he worked on, because I am in commercial and residential development, that he cited, the Avalon projects were from 1990. All right. So it wasn't a reference. It wasn't a project that he worked on. It was an Avalon project. So that's why I brought it up. And my concerns about the Bordentown project was that it was a 20-year project and it fell apart and the town had to buy it back. So I was acting in the best interest of concern and asking you just to follow up. I got my answer. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, so we'll get back to that.
Can I ask another question?
Hi, I'm Beth Michael. I don't want to belabor this point. I just have a suggestion, because now this is the second time I've heard this problem. I live across the street from the lumberyard, and I was told that, and personally by an employee of the borough at that time, that I had a chance to make my comments at the planning board meeting. I was fortunate enough to have one of my comments appreciated and changed. But I had no idea until I saw it on the agenda. I had no idea they were even going to put a doghouse up there. So now we come up with all these people who had no idea. We should have been more, we should have noticed when the ordinance was made for the redevelopment of this property was really the time to have an impact on what happened. Can we go back to the ordinances of other redevelopment properties that have not come before the planning board and review them and may have the opportunity for the public, now that we've learned more about this, to be able to participate? You don't have to answer me. I'm just making it a suggestion, now that we're all getting a little smarter.
Just as a follow-up, just so I understand, I mean, there's really only been two at this point. So there's been the lumberyard and the one that's actively happening, right? So one of which has now been fully approved. So I don't know if there's an opportunity to
Well,
revisit that.
Have you've made a redevelopment plan for the Castora property?
We have not, no. So that would be, that would be the, you know, we talked about it both prospectively and, but no, there is no plan for that.
So let me make sure I understand, so we can all understand. Before the person that buys the Castora property or wants to redevelop it, before they have any conversation with the planning board or the borough council, you will have a chance to vote on a redevelopment ordinance for that property.
So there's two approaches to a redevelopment plan. One, the borough could just create a plan kind of in a vacuum and say, here's what we'd like to be built there, without discussing it with the folks that own the property. Usually that results in, unfortunately, nothing happening, you know, right? The redevelopment process was kind of intended to be a discussion, at least at first, between a property owner and the governing body, particularly when, as is the case with all of our redevelopment areas, the borough did not give itself the ability to condemn the properties. So in a larger municipality, like, you know, look at Jersey City, many of their downtown areas are in redevelopment areas. They might have a plan for several blocks that says something more generic, like there should be more housing here and mixed use here, and buildings should be X stories or have such and such floor area ratios, but are more general. And sometimes there could be very specific even, but the city has the ability to force the owner to sell their property to someone who might want to build what the town's decided they want to do. We did not, back in 2015 or 2014, when these were made redevelopment areas, there was a lengthy discussion. I guess I've now been here the longest, and this was before my time. But there was a lengthy discussion about whether the borough should have that ability to take through eminent domain. And ultimately, the borough did not have that. So conceivably, we could, without any of those preliminary discussions about what might possibly a buyer might want to build there, create a new zone or create a redevelopment plan ourselves. Historically, for the town, you know, it costs a lot of money. And if there's not really any suggestion that someone would come along to build it, it's a challenge. You know, it ends up being a lot of work and expense, and you might not get anything out of it. It's something we could consider, and I'll be honest, with one of these properties that has yet to be redeveloped, it's been a while. You know, maybe those things are worth consideration the longer that they go without, you know, action. You know, that property is truly a blight, to be honest with you, in my mind. The other way to go about it, though, is to kind of requires an understanding of what the property owner could do before you put a plan together. Now, more generically, I think we've learned between the lumberyard and Hopewell 57, this is an observer, certainly the second, that there were certainly more people in the room from the public. There was a more understanding that it was happening than there was for the first project. So I think the borough learned and improved its process of getting the word out, or people understanding that it was happening. You know, there were many meetings, and they went late, and there was a lot of discussion, and maybe everyone may not agree that the discussion was received or didn't get what they want out of it, but certainly I think more people were engaged and involved in the Hopewell 57 discussion than in the initial lumberyard, you know, borough's attempt at understanding how redevelopment can be deployed or engaged with the community. And I think when we get to the third one, will learn on both of those lessons, not just that people need to be in the room, but there has to be a better understanding or communication about what things should be talked about and focused on. Because that if topic X is, up for discussion, and that's, the time to get opinions out about uses, for example. I think the first two projects that we did were residential. If Castoros comes and it is either mixed use or some other type of non-residential use that's not permitted there now, that really would be the time to discuss. And we need to make it clear, I think, in that discussion, that if the redevelopment plan is gonna say, I'll just make up something ridiculous, but like an ice rink or an entertainment zone or something like that, that when someone comes with an entertainment zone application later on, after the plan is enacted, that it, you don't need a variance for that at that point. The board will be focused more on parking and access and what it looks like, and less about what it's going to be. So I'm hopeful, and all things that I know now about what Castoros could be in the near future say that I'll personally be able to participate in it. So I can, until I have to not participate, and I don't anticipate that, I can tell you that that's what I'll make sure happens. And
I just think we all want to know, when is the time to say we want 2 parking spaces instead of 1.5, or we want 3 stories instead of 2? And clearly, the first time I totally missed the boat. This time I'm a little smarter, but I'm hoping the third go around, it'll be even clearer. And I just appreciate you thinking about it.
thank you. That's something.
Good evening. Tom Masters. Can I ask a question about the water sale?
Sure.
Do you have a date when it's gonna happen? This New Jersey American.
It's not a set date. The target is end of June, early July. There are, I believe, several other state approvals that are pending before that can be finalized.
Is any of that in the 26 budget?
The budget was produced agnostically, assuming the worst case scenario that it does not happen. So no, it is not in the budget.
So will there be an amendment to the budget once the sale happens?
I'll let our administrator talk about how we have to account for that.
So as the mayor mentioned, the budget was prepared as if that's not happening, because we can't anticipate that revenue until it actually comes in. When it does come in and arrive, there are forms we have to file with the Division of Local Government Services saying we got this revenue, and then the budget will be modified to show the revenue coming in. So this year's budget is just like it would be at this moment if there was no water sale. Budgeting for the debt service. When we get that money in, we'll work with our bond council to take care of all the debt service.
So let's suppose it happens, money comes in, we have to pay off debt. So our debt service will go down, I assume.
Yes.
That will be part of the budget. Will that then also lead to tax relief? Because that's obviously how this whole thing was advertised, or part, at least that was one of the arguments, big arguments, tax relief. Will that come if we get the 6.4 million?
It won't be automatic, and I think as we've said throughout, we're very interested in what you'd like to have happen with the proceeds of avoided debt payments, whether it be tax relief or capital projects or other things that we need to do. So very much interested in what you'd like to happen there.
It's not about me, it's about the residents of Hopewell.
Well, you're a resident of Hopewell. I would very much like to know what you'd like. And as we've said throughout, we will have a public process to vet out how we will proceed with this, what portion people might be looking for in relief, what capital projects, whether it's our parks or public safety, that we feel we need to address. And our administrator has actually started kind of a presentation, but we're looking the next couple of weeks to announce a series of public meetings to get feedback to help shape what that plan will be.
Okay. But that was my question, and the last one I have is, I got this overview, I think it was from you on all the ordinances and the bond ordinances and the Excel spreadsheet. I think that was through 24, all the bonds through 24. The initial number, what's still open on it, you know. Is there an update for 25 through December 21 of 25? Because the one I got was through 24.
The only bond ordinance I recall passing since I've been here was that $600,000 that we did earlier in the summer, related to of the DPW building. But that was finishing something. I can check with our financial advisor just to make sure there was nothing that wasn't accounted for in what I provided you earlier.
Yeah.
From before I started, January to July.
So you recall only this, for 25, the 600, there's another 600,000.
I'll take your word for it, but I want to
Yeah, yeah.
verify. I don't off the
Okay.
top of my head.
No, that would be nice
Yeah.
to get that, yeah, okay. Thank you very much, that's all I have.
Thank you.
Am I allowed to ask another question?
You may, go for it.
Okay, thank you. So listening to all this is what my head says. So all the people that have been attending the planning board meetings should be coming to the council meetings and telling you what we think. Is that correct? That instead of having the over 100 people coming to the planning board meetings, asking our questions and not getting any great satisfaction from answering our questions, from what I just heard said here, that we should be coming to the council and telling you what we think of this project.
I don't know that anyone said that, but
Yeah,
you're welcome to, and continue.
Okay,
Um,
I want an ice rink there instead.
Now my counterpart, much younger on Parks and Rec, but did him in, I think.
But so that isn't, that's how I heard that. It's not what was actually said, that would be more beneficial to affect change by having everyone come to the council meetings and express our concerns about the way it was presented and the incorrect information that was presented and not included in the traffic report.
So I'm doing my best here, Melissa. This is complicated, but there was a process that was started several years ago where some members of council here and some who are no longer on the board passed the equivalent of a zoning ordinance. Many years ago, frankly, and I was included in this, for the lumberyard, which created what the zoning would be for the lumberyard project. That was done at a meeting like this, several of them, with a trip to the planning board in between. And then there was a public hearing on it. And then after that, created the redevelopment plan, which was the zoning for that property. It went to the planning board and had many meetings where the details of the project, of what was then a conforming project, didn't need any variances, were presented and modified and eventually approved by the planning board as a site plan approval. I think what I hope was said is that there are elements of the process that the governing body dictates, which is that plan. The planning board has a part of it, and there's actually an opportunity earlier at the planning board for that. But that the largest part of affecting the input or change in the redevelopment plan is at the meetings of this body where the redevelopment plan was discussed and approved.
Okay, so it goes back to that question. So the traffic information we have found was incorrect. So we're now depending on the planning board to agree that that information was incorrect. And then they can say to them, this is not right. Is that correct?
Yes, I think that actually is 100% correct.
Okay.
This board does not have jurisdiction to change anything involving.
Nobody seems to. Sorry.
It may very well be that the professionals hear that there were some questions about the traffic plan. I'm not sure they heard similar things at the last meeting, and we'll hear it again on the 15th. I'm sure that they will. But ultimately, I want to make sure that because this is an active planning board application, and it sounds like, without getting merits of it, it sounds like you've got legit, there are concerns about the reports, how traffic would work, and 1,000,000%, those should be raised to the board so that the planning board can hear it. They're not relying on someone here telling them that we heard there was a problem. They should hear it from you.
Okay. And I guess part of the problem is that the planning board asks questions, obviously, before, so they presented the traffic and they asked their questions. I know that I did not get any sense of how the planning board was responding to it. Like, did they agree? They didn't seem to, there was no like, well, this doesn't seem to work. This is, have you considered this? And I don't know where that falls in, but I just.
No, that's a good question. There's not a great answer to that. I don't know that there's a way, and look, I'm often, let's say in your shoes, but my day job, which is mostly at nights, is to go before other towns' planning boards, and think those thoughts. And I can tell you some towns, and I can tell you which board members they are in some towns, that will tell you what they're thinking. And some will just kind of think about it, and you'll have no idea until they get to the end. And I've tried to find ways to try to ease that information out of them.
So can we ask the planning board members individually and directly and saying, what do you feel about these traffic reports?
You can ask whatever you'd like during the meeting. I have attempted that and had board attorneys not permit them to answer specifically like that, like a poll, for example. But my thought is ask as much as you can, and make as many comments as you can to that board.
But just so it's clear, I mean, this board cannot say to the planning board, disregard this traffic report. They've got no jurisdiction to do that. So, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but this board hands are tied in that. So, yeah, I mean, ask whatever questions you want at the planning board. If it's something that they feel they can answer, they'll answer it. But until the complete application is in, and I don't know the status of it, I'm not going there. I mean, there could be variations and there could be modifications. I mean, there's a lot of things that could happen before there's a vote. So yeah, by all means, ask whatever question.
So I guess that's, thank you. There's a lot of things that can happen before the vote, but if the planning board doesn't talk to the public, we don't know what they're thinking. We have no idea whether they.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, there has to be a public discussion as to the thoughts as to voting for it, not voting for it, or whatever. I mean, it's not just, pieces of paper, yeah, yes or no, or whatever. It was done many, many years ago. But there has to be a public discussion as to why you're voting for it, why you're voting against it, or why you want a modification, or whatever. So yes, that's gonna happen. I mean, and I'm not the planning board attorney there, I don't pretend to be, but having been a planning board attorney, there's generally, some big towns and some small towns, there's always a discussion as to why a planning board member is voting for it or against it. So you'll know where they're at on it.
I hope so. It doesn't feel like we will have that because we don't hear from the planning board at all. They ask their questions, which is great. There are very few questions and comments from them. And then the community asks their questions, but we don't know what the planning board is thinking, and shouldn't we be able to know that?
Well, that's why you have to ask the questions of the board.
Ultimately, the board speaks through a vote in a record at that meeting, and I'll share your frustration through my own experiences, which is often, as an applicant, you do not want to get into that vote if you do not know how it's going to go.
Right.
So one of the, tricks of the trade, goals of the applicant is to find out what they're thinking and ask questions, and then that's.
I know they wanted to know all my questions ahead of time. I was asked to, why don't you just tell me what the problems are and we'll take care of it. So, okay, so then that's good. And regarding the fire thing, and I know I'm not exactly correct, but that question was asked to them. And I believe the fire department said, we'll be fine, even though we can't reach the fourth floor. Was that pretty much what we heard? So I don't understand why that's fine. And how do we,
I'd be careful in commenting on
Okay.
any aspect of the hearing now. I mean, I understand what you're saying.
What I wanna say is just because you don't know, doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Well, that's a problem. We should know.
It's not, and I hear the frustration about the process. I'm frustrated by how government works too, and I'm in it. Because it's not like we didn't make the rules in place. I can't say stuff right now that
Okay,
I would
but we
love
were
to
told
say.
that it was gonna be okay, even though they don't have a ladder that reaches.
Because they're putting other things in.
We have a right to know what things they are if people are gonna be living there.
It's just because I can't say it. I'll ask, listen, at the fire commissioner meeting on Wednesday, I will ask if this memorandum can be made public at the next meeting so that you can see.
Why can't we demand that? You're putting people gonna live here,
No one's lives are in danger. No one's lives are in danger. The
but
fires,
there's no ladder that can reach them. That's what I'm
that's
saying.
not the only means of fire suppression.
Right, so we should know what that is as public
You weren't asked that.
and not get an answer.
But it exists. And I feel disheartened that the default is not, there's an answer and there's a process by which all information will be
Pretend you were
public.
on the council chair, you would want an
No,
answer to understand that.
I would, and we're trying to tell you that there is an answer, and the answer isn't, we're gonna let the building burn down, like that, does that seem like a reasonable?
No, but I don't understand why that's not available to the public.
I mean.
I know you don't know the answer to that.
I don't know anything about this report, so I don't think we
Well,
should.
that doesn't help, but I just don't understand
Sorry.
why, okay, it's fine, it'll be fine, it'll be fine. Like, how many help, well, I don't understand.
What more and more is happening here, and we're doing our best for the limited information that this body and our one professional here tonight has,
Uh-huh.
is to help facilitate you getting answers. Ultimately, the information you're looking for, these are questions for the planning board and their professionals.
Okay.
We will, again, I think what you're saying is legitimate. I share Sherry's frustration, 'cause I know that the people on that committee looked into this and asked the fire officials and professionals what they thought about and got answers about it and were comfortable with those answers and would not have gone forward if they didn't. And I am respectful of the process that we have to just not answer that at this moment and make sure that we're not interfering with an active planning board application in doing so.
Okay.
But I don't want you to think
I
that no
respect
one was thinking about it, looking at it, and doesn't desperately want to make sure you have easy access to that information.
I just know that we have asked the planning board, questions, and we have been told by the planning board, remind us what those questions were if we don't answer them. Not, we'll get back to you with that information, right? That's what they told us, like, well, if we don't answer the question, you have to stand up and say you didn't answer my question. Well, that's not my job. My job is to present the question, just like I did here, and Sherry said, okay, well, eventually she'll see if she can get it made public, and then we'll have that information. But we've been told at the planning board, no, we're not doing that. And there have been many questions that have been asked. I mean, one I asked like 4 times, I've given up asking. There was a 6-month thing where they had to complete an application, get it in. Did they have to get a written extension from the borough? And I said, did we get the written extension? And if we didn't, we should be compensated in some way for that. And no one has ever answered that.
Again,
You're getting into the weeds.
I don't want, you to misinterpret our interest in trying to help you get answers to these things as so these being actionable items for us. The questions and things you're saying need to be heard by the planning board during a public hearing. And one of the reasons they probably are reluctant or cannot answer you after the fact is because if there is an answer to a question, the whole public needs to hear that
Right,
question.
well, and it's what
answer
we
at the same
said,
time.
can you tell us at the next meeting? Well, if we don't remember to talk about it, you have to remind, it's your we were told it's our responsibility to bring it up again. And I don't think that's great, but, and one more last question. There was supposedly a missing liquor license. I know that doesn't have anything to do with the current ones, because this is like a non thing. Was there a missing license ever found?
So, missing is probably not the right word.
Okay.
Like it was under the counter.
An elusive one.
So we have been tracking every opportunity to support restaurants and businesses through liquor license. What we hear very often is that we're at a competitive disadvantage for not having it. It is a population-based thing for which we have one plenary and one consumption, and that is it. There's many things we have done to try to put into motion, one of which is happening tonight. Other opportunities for businesses to have that and be successful. Another one that we did a year and a half ago, by doing an area in need of rehabilitation for the town, allowed two possible things. One is that if someone were to find and purchase a unused license in an adjacent town, as the donut hole of Hopewell Township, there's only one adjacent town, it's Hopewell Township. But if someone were to do that, it could conceivably be transferred into town privately, but it can only go to a place that's an area in need of rehabilitation or redevelopment. So now that could happen. It hasn't yet, there's none available, but that's an option. The other piece that came out of this relatively new, is now 2.5 years old, I think, mini liquor license reform, was that if there were licenses that disappeared or lapsed during certain time period, that you could bring them back. We have been working on that. The time period when another liquor license existed here does not apparently line up with when they can be unlapsed. And we've worked on that quite a bit, and haven't given up. But ultimately, we tracked down the dates. At one point, there was approval to apparently move it to the train station. Actually, at one point, we found some documentation on that. I understand there was a pub kind of at the end of Princeton Avenue where it was at one point. When it last was used, as of the current regulations, does not line up with when it can be resurrected, but we're trying, and haven't given up.
That's why I wants to open a bar. No,
I'll.
We're next to the ice skating rink.
There is I would say, there is if you were to search for the, ABC, the Alcohol and Beverage Commission's clerk's name. It's a relative, for documents that are written by the government that explain things. It's actually one of the better ones, and it talks about all the other different types of things that could result in a business or organization getting a liquor license.
Okay.
And I encourage you to be creative, and there are some things in there, like the county, for example. If the state or the county leased their own property, they could have what's called a liquor concession and get a license without it counting against our total nonprofit clubs. There are some things that can be done. And I always encourage creativity, and I feel like we've shown an interest to support restaurants and businesses with that. And if you think of something clever, bring it to us and we'll see what we can do.
Well, and thank you for allowing me to press all this. I appreciate your attention.
I have no one in person. I'm gonna we got one person, Mr. Peters. I'm gonna bring you over as a panelist online. It'll take a second for you to materialize on our system here. Mark, you should be able to unmute yourself, and we see you. And want to introduce yourself and make your comment or question?
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. Appreciate it. Can everybody hear me okay?
I'm going to turn up the volume as much as I can. We can. You're a little quieter than the other speakers, but I think we can hear you.
All right, let me try to yell. Sorry, I'm sitting in a hotel room in Ohio right now, and I'm not able to be there in person, so my apologies. I wanted to just jump on briefly and comment. At the prior school board meeting, I made a public comment during the school board meeting with an encouragement that I hope that someone on the council may want to participate in, to have a Hopewell Valley-wide town hall specifically to discuss pilot programs. And I am hoping that this is an encouragement to anybody sitting on the council that they would be willing to participate in this for the sole purpose of staying in the lane of just educating the public. I think my experience over the past 24 months with pilot programs is there's a lot of misinformation, disinformation, a misunderstanding of what local officials have the power to do and the power not to do. And I think that the school board holistically obviously plays a big part in this in some manner. So my question bluntly is, can we get participants from the council to come to a town hall, which would ultimately be Hopewell Borough, Pennington Borough, and Hopewell Township, that would be open to some sort of public commentary and discussion strictly to educate about pilots. Similar, Ryan, to I think what you guys did a few meetings ago, but at a from a larger perspective. Would welcome your guys' thoughts on that. I hope you guys can participate if we can get something set up.
I'll speak for myself, and that would love to. I hope that our counterparts in our municipalities would join you and us in that enthusiasm. I personally sat with these groups, and look, I'll say one of the things on our agenda tonight, I think, is evidence of our ability to work with our neighbors. We are a revised police contract. For those of you who aren't familiar, but similar to school funding, we pay for our police services based on the value of our town, based on the assessments. And one of my goals and our administration's goals the last few years is to revisit that, because frankly, that number doesn't make a lot of sense if one town has a lot of things that don't count as assessments because they are piloted. And working with Hopewell Township, we will be approving tonight a revised police contract that will include the value of pilot properties, Hopewell Park, Woodmont, all those things in our police coverage. And ultimately, we think in future years will be a significant savings and fairness shift for Hopewell Borough. And so long and short of it is, let us know when this will be, or if you need help in encouraging others to be part of this, because unfortunately there's an issue of education for everyone. There's also an issue where policy-wise, things that aren't always beneficial to each of the towns, unfortunately. And I don't know that that's what motivates some of our neighbors, but I'll say that what motivates us is fairness for our taxpayers and affordability. So I'm personally excited to be part of that conversation.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
I'm gonna move you out as a panelist. If it somehow hangs up on you, it's not my intention to do that.
Sure. I'm just kidding. Thanks, guys.
I'm gonna have to move, for those in the room, I have to move it off that screen so I can actually see what I'm doing. It's too far. Okay, checking to see if we have any other hands raised. I don't believe so, but I'm gonna try to check again. I do not. So with that, see no one here in person, I'll seek a motion to close the first of several public comment opportunities. Or motion? Deb, do I have a second? Second. All in favor? All right, thank you. Okay, next are liaison reports. Paul, I'll start with you, and just because I'm usually going side to side, Heidi, you're not like the side, but I'm gonna come to you next, okay? So Paul, you wanna start?
Yes, so senior advisory met, everything's going swimmingly there. Ryan mentioned that we were guests at the American Water Information Meeting. I took copious notes and learned a lot about that. The accessory dwelling unit ordinance is, I'm starting that up, and it's very complicated. And like I said earlier, also going to clean up the other ordinances that need cleaning up to make Hopewell more user friendly to all of us. So with that.
That's tidy.
Right.
So the Hopewell Valley Open Space met. We are still working on the committee's goals and objectives this year. We are meeting again later this month. Nothing more to report there. The Hopewell Valley Green Team, our scrap metal collection was 3,940 pounds. The Valleywide group is meeting again next Thursday, our borough group did not meet last month, but we are meeting next Tuesday, the 14th at the Hopewell Public Library. And we do welcome new volunteers to the Hopewell Borough arm of the Green Team. And the mocktail crawl will be May 9th. That's not really committee, but.
Thank you for joining us notwithstanding tonight. I much appreciate it. Thank you. See, I find it's very disorienting when it's not just lined up. Anthony, do you want to come next?
Yeah, sure. So the Board of Health appreciate the change to the ordinance last month, adding alternates. And they are looking for candidates, and we have at least one candidate in mind, so that's good progress. Aside from that, so the next meeting is going to be end of April, so hopefully some more.
Sure.
Let's see. Melissa, the Shade Tree Committee has 7 trees that they're gonna try to plant before the end of spring. And you can come see a snow goose cherry tree planted with the kindergarten class on April 22nd. And at some point, we will be planting a red oak for the Hopewell Elementary School 100th anniversary. Time and place TBD, so I'll let you know. So it's at least 9 trees coming here. There will be some more Arbor Day stuff posted on the website, so check there. There's Bill Flemmer, who used to be on the Shade Tree Committee, who is awesome. He is having a tree walk in St. Michael's on Saturday, April 25th at 9 a.m. So come see some interesting trees and get some exercise on the 20th. Fire department, some interesting stats from them. The average ambulance response time is 3 minutes and 48 seconds. And the fire department made use of our freezing cold weather and conducted a bunch of ice rescue drills, which I did not participate in. I was invited. And on June 12th, the junior firefighters will be having their annual competition at in the PQM parking lot at 6 p.m. So come see the future of fire rescue. And lastly, you may have noticed in town the old HVA signs, those big maroon signs with the arrows, those now have been updated and they have new business arrows. So that's a good step forward. So if we missed any, which I don't think we did, just let us know. I think the one thing that I definitely want to add on there is arrows to indicate that, where parking is, because people don't necessarily know and just sort of spread parking around. So anyway, it's good progress.
I have a shade tree question. Do you all happen to have like a database of all the trees in town?
Alan does, but part of what I think Jerry might talk about is getting we're doing a tree survey that's just of street trees.
Yeah.
Is that what you meant?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we will have that.
And that's like a crowdsource, like people can.
No, so there's actually a company that does it, and it's part of our Tree City USA designation. I don't want to steal Jerry's thunder. Yes, the answer is yes.
I like what Jerry.
Great.
Okay, the library board is meeting tomorrow night. Barbara, our wonderful librarian, as usual, is lining up a lot of great events for the next couple of months. So look for the emails, and if you don't get them, please sign up. She's also really doing a great job with getting teens continually involved with some events focusing on their interests. So we're very excited about that moving forward. Personnel committee is meeting this week, and nothing really to talk about there. The recreation department, Sherry mentioned some of that, but of course the flyer went out this year, so it should be in all of your homes at this point. And for April, what's coming up is that noteworthy Hopewell Tree Walk by Bill Plummer, which we're all very excited about, Arbor Day, and the community potluck on the April 19th. And then the last thing is the recreation department. No, I said that. Building grounds, not a whole lot on that. Jerry probably has some things to say.
And that's it.
First,
Would you rather we talk about the stop sign ordinance now or at the introduction?
we're doing it at we do introduction.
Okay, so aside from that, the recent, just late, sorry, this is cracking. Late this afternoon, we received the speed study report from the GMTMA. You may have noticed that we were borrowing their speed sentry on Princeton Avenue to collect some data there, so I have not had a chance to to review it yet.
I was trying to multitask. That was me sending that link to them where you asked for it before.
Yeah.
There's not a way for me to do that and not have it played. So I will not click send on emails. Apologies.
Speed study, Princeton Avenue, anyway, yeah, like, we have not had a chance to review it yet, but Jerry and I will take a look and, hopefully we can use that information to get some funding to implement some traffic calming on Princeton Avenue, as we know that there is a speeding issue there.
Thank you. Couple things from me. I want to thank Deb and Sherry and everyone who came on March 20th for the ribbon cutting for a new business in town, Master Plan Investment Group, and Kenita Bullock. Really exciting on Mercer, what she's done there. Excited to have her part of the borough community. Our administrator, Jerry, and I had lunch with the fire department chief Benton, about a week and a half ago here in town, just talking about some things that we're gonna be working on together. I'll note, maybe many of you have read some things that our neighbors in the township are working on. So as you've seen, you know, they are exploring a change in their form of government, and they continue to explore the types of good government changes that we'd expect in our counterparts around us. We don't really have a strong feelings about what type of government they are. It's probably a good thing for them to be exploring it. You know, we have 7 representatives for less than 2,000 people, and they have 5 for almost 20,000. So I can understand why they look at it. But for our part, our focus has been on shared services. That's how we interact with them, including, you know, as I said before, tonight we're approving a revised police agreement that takes into account the value of these piloted properties and more fairly allocates the police costs between the towns. We're also actively discussing additional new shared services. Not anything to publicly say about that, but we work with them very regularly on things that would make sense for us to be sharing and working together on. And in addition to the police revisions, I am very much looking forward to another line of shared services that we are exploring. Are we actively working on them with a plan for consolidation? No. Do we talk about all these things with our counterpart in the township regularly? Yeah, we do. And if they're doing a study on some things that impact us, we'll certainly be interested in the results. On school funding, we have, as Mark Peters said, major issues with the impact of their pilots on the school funding formula, and we'll continue to pursue relief for our taxpayers on that front. Though at this moment, not at the expense of our independent existence. That's just not something we're actively working on. As Paul said, several meetings with New Jersey American Water, including one very specifically talking about their updated rate cases. We will continue to be engaged and push them on that process and expect to have some information to share on that in the coming weeks. My coffee hours, the next one will be Saturday the 18th, which is the 3rd Saturday of the month. Actually, that's not the next one. The next one will be next Wednesday. Apologies. And then the Saturday one will be on the 18th this month, both here at Borough Hall. It was really, I guess Ryan Patrick Kennedy is slightly Irish sounding enough to for the a brief St. Patrick's Day reception in Princeton. So I appreciate the governor for inviting some of us there. We've said this a few times, it is on the website, but want to shout from the rooftops that the next week's planning board meeting will be at Hopewell Elementary School and online and in person. So if you're online, remember it is just viewing and not commenting. Go in person, please, if you'd like to comment or ask questions about the Hopewell 57 project. It is likely that there'll be additional future meetings and that the May meeting, which is the next possible date for Hopewell 57, which they will announce next week if it continues, and it likely will will be at Hopewell Elementary as well. So we have made arrangements for those meetings going forward to be at the larger venue, but will not pre-announce them until they get to that meeting. But we're, yes, Susan,
I'm sorry, do people go, which door do people go in at Hopewell Elementary?
through the cafeteria side.
Perfect.
Yes, and we'll have that there as well.
Perfect.
Want to thank our clerk and everyone at the school district for helping us arrange that. It is certainly a challenge, particularly with the tech, but appreciative of everyone's help to get that done. There is another planning board meeting this month, the 22nd. That will be here in Hopewell Borough and not be for Hopewell 57. That's just for regular applications that are on the 22nd. So it's likely that the 15th, well, definitely the 15th will be at Hopewell Elementary on Hopewell 57. And then likely that the next meeting after that, next regular meeting, which is the first Wednesday when the board normally meets, will likely be at Hopewell Elementary as well. But again, we'll have that in our weekly emails and on the website as soon as it's confirmed. Plans for DPW continue advancing. Thank our friends who are going to recognize here tonight at the our Hopewell Dark Sky Initiative for working with our engineer on that project. Sorry, making wait the whole evening to hear that.
David said you were gonna go first.
I apologize on this.
I got Ackerman.
They'll have some words for me as well.
Yes.
And as I mentioned before, administrator is working on materials that we're going to be announcing soon some of the first dates for our public outreach on how our community wants council to address the surplus funds from retiring our debt, hopefully later this year. And then finally, we have a project with Montgomery Township and the watershed for the particular sub-watershed region that we are in with our neighboring municipalities that is advancing. And very much appreciative of Montgomery and the watershed for joining us in. It turns out we will save some money on something that we have to do and have a better product by working together with Montgomery. So with that, Jerry, you want to highlight anything from your report?
Can I say one more thing? I'm so sorry.
Okay.
I forgot, because planters were brought up. And one of our favorite planter volunteers is sitting right behind you, Melissa. So there's a super informal, unofficial Hopewell Garden Club that plants things in those planters. And we're starting our spring planning, and we're always welcoming volunteers. Jen Curtis is taking over some ridiculous number, like 8 planters. Which are gonna be
sponsors.
beautiful, yeah. And some businesses are taking over some planters, so there are plans for it. Just has been so cold that we don't want anything to die in it. So always looking for volunteers and input, looking to do a mix of natives and annuals and watering. Always looking for help watering. So that's in the works.
And I wanted to mention that we are working on setting up a meeting so the community can learn about the new e-bike law that was signed into effect the end of last year. It becomes live and about the middle of this year, we're thinking like June, July. We're working with police, the library, Krista, we haven't talked too much yet, but just get a session out there so that kids and parents can come before school lets out, so they understand that they have to have insurance, they have to be registered, all the different regulations, and Captain Ursa will talk about, how they plan to enforce all that. So more to come on that, but probably early June, mid-June.
Thanks. Jerry, do you want to highlight?
Just a couple quick items. I won't touch on anything that's on the agenda. I'll reserve those comments until they come up. If there's any questions, other than to say the budget is being introduced tonight, as you all know. For the public hearing, I will have a comprehensive PowerPoint presentation that describes, the changes in the budget, any major issues, any major increases, decreases, etc., and how we're planning for the future, just not 2026, but 27 and going forward. I did have the opportunity to review the Princeton traffic speed report that came in late this afternoon. I suspect it's not alarming to anybody who lives in the community, but the numbers are pretty jarring. The percentage of people that are exceeding the speed limit there, the 2 numbers that stuck out are 43 and 16. 43% of the people are exceeding the speed limit. 16% of those are considered highly exceeding the speed limit. And actually, when you control for the amount of people going 15 miles an hour or less, which means they're probably just turning, those numbers spike to 58 or 22%. So, we'll do what we can to address that issue. We'll work with our partners in the county. But it's, I'll read it in more detail. I'll probably have some more insight after doing that. But those were the quick numbers that jumped out at me upon looking at it before the meeting tonight. On the building front here, as you know, about 6 or 7 months ago, we completed the project out front with the painting and the repairing of the pillars in front of Borough Hall. What was completed with the pillars did not hold, for lack of a better phrase. So I'm in the process of meeting with contractors again to try to see what we can do to repair those and make that sustainable long term. Certainly replacing the pillars would be the absolute last option because it's an incredibly expensive project.
Yeah.
But the bottom parts of those are really falling apart and showing some wear. So I'm hoping when I meet with the contractor early next week, we can have an opportunity to address that for some long-term capability. It was mentioned about the tree inventory. At our last meeting, we approved a resolution hiring a consultant to do the tree inventory subject to the availability of the grant. As of last meeting, that grant had not been open yet from the state, but it did open shortly after last meeting. I completed all the requirements and submitted that grant to the DEP about 6 days ago. So I expect to hear something within 2 or 3 months. It's generally considered not a competitive grant, meaning that you're likely to get it if you submit it and meet the criteria, which we do. So to that end, even though the hiring of the consultant is subject to the award of that grant, they've done this long enough with this grant to feel comfortable setting a time frame on which they're going to get started based on their knowledge. So I expect sometime in May or June for them to be kind of getting ready to go, and you'll see people around doing a tree inventory for a couple of weeks. Lastly, I've been spoke with Councilman Steeler the other day. We were talking about filming in the borough, and with the growth of the filming industry here in New Jersey, we looked into what it takes to be film ready. So if there is ever an opportunity, or if someone is ever interested, whether it's with a new Netflix studio or a Paramount that wants to film here, we can have a process in place. That all is obviously, the council's decision, have a draft ordinance based off what the state government provides us. And it gives us the opportunity to be very flexible and have discretion in what we are and what we would and what we would not allow to do. There actually is a website that shows a bunch of pictures from all the towns in New Jersey, and doesn't seem it came from the government, but there are a few people in Hopewell that have submitted pictures to this website. So when production scouts go on these websites, they'll actually see some things from Hopewell Borough as possible locations. Whether we want to be film friendly or not film friendly, I can adjust that accordingly because they'll provide me access as the administrator, once council decides on how they want to go about it. So that's something we're looking into. It's a 5-step certification process that will start with an ordinance. And we can, through subcommittees, discuss that and decide, when and if you want to bring that to council for full discussion. Otherwise, I'll reserve my comments for the agenda items as they come up. And as always, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me.
Jerry, I just wanted to ask if you had heard any information about when the beating pedestrian interval will be at Ron.
I did not get any finality on that. I know from our conversation with the engineer, or from my conversation with the engineer in the county last week, they said they were gonna do it by the end of last week. So let me just follow up with them to make sure that was complete. I know there were people out there working. Not exactly sure what they were doing yet, so I'm gonna confirm that.
Thank you.
Because I now realize that we have someone here waiting for this, I'm going to move it. We have item 16. We have 3 proclamations. Excited to join in 2 things. One, Arbor Day coming up later this April. This year is the 100th anniversary of Hopewell Elementary School. We'll be recognizing them, and particularly since there's a representative here. Sean Maxwell, thank you for coming and recognize Dark Sky Week here in Hopewell Borough and the efforts of Dark Sky Hopewell in particular. We have several public works projects coming up that have benefited from their input from our public works building. I have watched, I'll just say, some excellent comments on some planning board projects coming from them, and just going up and down Broad Street or Princeton Avenue. You'll see the work of these volunteers, including involving school students, which is amazing. But not just recommending changes, but actually doing it, working with property owners to effectuate dark sky compliant changes. And I mean, it's silly to say it's night and day, but it is. So if you're leaving tonight, well, one, drive slowly down Princeton. We're hearing that that's not what's been happening lately. But technically it's outside of the borough, but as you approach St. Michael's on the right, I'm sure, help me out, is it 83? 83 Princeton. It is an amazing before and after transformation of this building, from something that you previously could see from space to something that is very appropriate, both in safety and aesthetics, but puts light where it should be and not where it should not be. So we have a proclamation here tonight. I want to thank in particular Sean and David Ackerman for their leadership in this. And if anyone here just join me in a round of applause for Thank you so much for everything you're doing. And I mean, it literally includes fabricating light fixture shields that don't exist for custom for our businesses and properties, which is absolutely amazing to see.
Wow.
So thank you so much.
Well, the students, thank you. It's all for those guys.
Well, particularly, I'll ask, and I'll follow this with an email too. If there are any seniors in particular that are working on this, we have a tradition of kind of thanking the ones that are in the borough as they graduate. And if there's I'll coordinate with you guys. If there's anyone in particular that's been involved, I want to make sure that they're recognized. We'll let you know. Thank you so much. All right, going back to our regular, our next item, going back to item 9 is our March 5th regular meeting minutes. I'll take a motion to approve the minutes. Do I have a second? Any discussion or questions? Right. Reggie, roll call on this?
Mr. Buda,
Yes.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Ms. Hook,
Yes.
Ms. Steeler,
Yes.
Ms. Weaver.
Yes.
Thank you. Next, we have the second reading and public hearing on ordinance 914, which will allow liquor licenses for certain theater operations. Reggie, if you could read this one by title.
An ordinance of the Borough of Hopewell, County of Mercer, New Jersey, regarding alcoholic beverage control and amending Chapter 5 of the revised general ordinances of the Borough of Hopewell, 1975.
All right, again, this one, we talked about this last month, that was when we introduced it, but some recent changes to the state liquor license will allow certain types of theaters with details that I don't fully recall, but I believe you have to have at least 50 seats and meet certain criteria, would allow them to have a liquor license for use during performances and 1 hour before, I believe. And we were approached to try to help facilitate this, and excited to move it forward and have this be an opportunity for businesses in town. So with that, this will be the public hearing. I'll open the meeting to the public. For anyone who'd like to make a comment or ask questions about ordinance 914.
Ryan, could I ask a clarifying question that might?
Sure.
Yeah, just I noticed that it said retail. We currently retail consumption. We currently have 2, or we're doing 2.
So we have 2 between those. There's we have 1 consumption and 1 retail. So there's the inn, and then the Hopewell Inn, which is in Pocket, or the bistro.
I'm looking at page 1. I'm looking at the ordinance 914. It says plenary retail consumption 2, retail distribution 1.
Maybe someone can answer that. I cannot.
Yeah.
Sounds like a typo to me.
It should be 1 and 1. You're saying?
I think so.
Okay.
I mean,
yeah.
it was 7 and 12, but
right.
but
Okay. I was actually hoping that we had a second one, but no. Yeah, it's 1 and 1. Okay.
And I guess maybe I'll assuming that you're correct, I'll ask Art if that sounds like the type that would just be a typo fix and not
de minimis change. Yeah.
Well, that's my favorite type. Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, glad I asked.
Good catch.
Thank you, James Higgins. I'm thrilled that this is gonna happen for Hopewell. Just a couple of questions, and I haven't had a chance to read the whole ordinance. Is there any zoning restrictions or amendments that are gonna be in this in reference to parking? Considering that we're gonna have the bistro also opening and the Hopewell Theater opening, it seems like a lot of cars in a very small geographic area. Has that been considered?
Has it been considered? Yes. Are there any changes planned at the moment? No. And I think the thinking was that there's not, for anything that's previously approved, so that the Hopewell Inn or the theater, whether the theater's approved or a pre-existing non-conforming use, I'm not really sure. They're kind of there at this point and would allow things there. If there were to be, a new user, I suppose, they would need planning board approval, I suppose, and parking could be addressed there. This does not change the number of spaces required for any of those uses. And, and honestly, the theater on Princeton, excuse me, on Greenwood has never had any parking spaces. So whatever the requirement is there, it's never had.
I'm just thinking, 3 events happening in one night could be pretty impactful.
Yeah, conceivably, yeah.
And is there gonna be any amendments or zoning in building? Is he requested anything to change in the building? Any structural changes to it?
Not that I would be like, to accommodate.
I don't know.
Experience of alcohol, like, would there be, I'm trying to understand the question, so like.
Well, so we're gonna take a look at the bistro, which started in 2023. It still hasn't been finished. The Empire State Building took 13 months. I'm just wondering if there's gonna be any building that has been proposed for that space that would be required.
For the bistro?
No, for the new Hopewell Theater that we're talking about for the liquor license. Is there going that's where the old Brothers Moon is, correct?
So I think there's two, I'll let them speak for what they want to do.
Okay.
My assumption is that for a different use there, they'd have to go to the planning board to propose a site plan for a change of use or something.
But
But
if there was going to be an ordinance that would have to come through here before into the planning board, it'd be very similar to what we've experienced at Hopewell 57, correct? So that anything that they would want to do, they'd have that conversation here. There's going to be an ordinance change or zoning change.
If there were to be a zoning change, correct, but I don't think it's contemplated there would be a zoning change for that property. At least they haven't asked for one yet. So my assumption would be that they would go to the planning board and ask for whatever relief or approvals they need there, rather than, but they're welcome to ask for something like that. We would consider it if we created a new, I don't know, theater zone conceivably or something like that. As we talked before, yes, you're correct. That would be done here. And then go to the planning board for consistent review, then back here for public hearing. My understanding of this ordinance, it just allows it, if you're allowed to be a theater through whatever rules or zoning allow you to be a theater, then you'd be allowed to also serve liquor. But if you needed other things to become a theater or to be approvable, you still have to go through that.
So there you go. Thank you very much.
Did you say allow it?
I may have.
Allow it.
I may have. Hey, we got, anyone else in person before I move? Carol, I'll move you next to promote you to panelist, so you may speak here. Carol, you should be able to unmute yourself and turn on your camera, and we'll be able to see and hear you here at Borough Hall.
Great.
There we
Hi,
go.
I'm Carol Lipson. I'm the Executive Director of the Hopewell Valley Arts Council. We're the ones who are leasing the Hopewell Theater, and I thought maybe I could answer the questions of the previous gentleman. We're a tenant of the theater and have no plans to make any substantive changes to accommodate the liquor license. The Old Brothers Moon is owned by somebody else. It's not the same owner as the theater, so that's a totally different organization. And I'm not really aware of in detail what their plans are. So wanted to thank the borough for being supportive of the theater project. We're really hopeful that by opening the theater again, that we can bring positive change to and foot traffic to Hopewell Borough and to increase traffic at the restaurants. We're going to be working with them to try and come up with some joint marketing for things. And I guess that's really what I wanted to say is thank you, and that the liquor license will provide another revenue source for us. It's very difficult to make money when you only have 175 seats in a theater and keep the price of the tickets affordable. So the liquor license really allows us another revenue stream to help us to be successful. So I just wanted to thank you. And we have an open house on April 18th for the public. And then our first performances will start the following weekend. So hope to see you there.
Thank you. Carol, taking a second to move you out. I'll Susan, if you want to start while I'm doing that, go right ahead.
Sure. I thought the liquor license was going to the space formerly known as Brothers Moon that's now becoming Hopewell Theater. But what Carol just said, it's going to the building that used to be the off-Broad Street, like what's happened.
So what we are doing is that the law allows, if the boroughs say yes, theaters to have liquor license. So we are saying yes to that.
Oh, so both would be
conceivably, yes, or honestly, I see other venues in town, if they qualify, we're not experts on what qualifies as a theater. There's certain restrictions and requirements, but you know, many of us have been to performances at other venues in restaurants in town that have larger spaces. You know, if they qualify, this is kind of agnostic to that. This is the borough saying yes, if you qualify, you could see.
So if there are 5 properties that qualify as theaters, they have a liquor license. Yeah. Okay.
No, I'll say I think so. I don't think we. I don't think.
Is it nonprofit theaters only? I think, which is most all theaters, but I think that
they have to be nonprofit.
The statute was changed in 2 different lists. Initially, it was nonprofit, and then they changed it to allow certain for-profit as well. So it could be either. I think the core restrictions are it has to have at least 50 seats. It is limited just to the period of ticketed performances, I believe, plus an hour beforehand.
So in 914, we're just asking for clarification on the table of the types of licenses. There's the plenary retail, so that's bistro. Plenary retail distribution, is that the liquor store?
Yes.
And then there's plenary retail consumption premises for nonprofit musical theatrical concerts. And then right below it says plenary, that's a weird word, retail consumption community theater. So is one nonprofit, one for-profit?
So, yeah.
Okay.
You can make public, you can.
Yeah, please, just,
I didn't so much.
well, if you're gonna speak, I'll ask if you could come up to the front so that people online can see and hear you as well.
Yeah, I'm Sarah Scully, and I live outside the borough. And I just wanted to make not a public comment, but a clarification. And I should say I have a little bit of a conflict of interest because I work on one of the projects that may be applying for the license. So I'm not saying this in that capacity, but there was some confusion about the process of getting a license. And so I just wanted to be of assistance to clarify and also for the public to offer information. So what the town is doing at this point, any town in the state, given this new law that has been passed by the governor, any town that wants to allow theaters, nonprofit or for-profit to have a liquor license, doesn't matter if they're 20 theaters, one theater, whatever. If the town's just like, hey, we're keen on this, we want to do this. The town first has to do this ordinance process. It's like just saying, this is our intention. This is what we would like to have for our town. That happens first. They introduce it. They did that last time here. Then they have a public meeting to actually say, we need a comment, and then it gets passed. Then afterwards, anyone, if you wanted to get a building and then have a theater or something, anyone can apply to get the license. But before you can even do that, the town has to notice and say, hey, we passed this ordinance. Anybody who wants the theater license, come on and apply. But guess what? There's a whole list of criterion that is not issued by this town. It is completely impartial. It is issued by the ABC, the Liquor Control Board. And they say, hey, towns out in New Jersey, see this criterion? You have to hold everyone accountable, level playing field to this criterion, and you can decide who you want to get the license to. But when you say, hey guys, come apply, whoever wants to apply, you first notice once, give them so much time to answer. Then you have to notice again, hey, we want the applications in at least 30 days in advance. So there's a nice long process that everybody gets to talk about it. And everybody who wants to apply, right, can get their questions answered, get their ducks in a row to fulfill all that criterion. Then it's not that easy. Even if the town says, we want only this candidate, or we want 12 candidates, we want 12 theaters in our town, how wonderful that would be for the arts, right? We want all these. They then have to say, these are the ones we want in our town. We want to give them the licenses. ABC then has to say, okay, we think it's fine. So there's a whole bunch of checks and balances along in the process. I just say this to try to be helpful. Again, I have a little bit of a conflict of interest, but I've been working on this for 6 years. So I know a bit about it. And I just want to be helpful because I've had seen people up here confused about zoning processes and redevelopment zones and pilot projects. We're going through a civics lesson in a lot of things here, right? So I just wanted to be helpful to everyone. And this isn't to talk down or patronize the council. You guys have a lot on your plates and I don't expect you to be experts. It's just something I've worked on. So I just wanted to be helpful. And I hope every arts institution in the state that is a performing arts presenter can avail themselves of this license and survive. Because whether you're nonprofit or for-profit, we're all up against the same battle. Theaters are closing, third spaces are closing, and we need these theaters. So let's hope this avails to the benefit of the arts and to the community. So thank you.
Thank you. Before we take a motion, just to see if anyone else has any comments or questions about this ordinance. Seeing no more hands raised online and no one else in the front, I'll take a motion to close public comment on ordinance 914. Do I have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Then unless there's further discussion, I'm looking for a motion on this ordinance. Ooh.
I'll second.
All right, so it's Deb first. No,
Terry for
sure, all right.
second, yeah.
Sure. You're further away, so it.
Oh, the second.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Buda,
Yes.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Ms. Hook,
Yes.
Ms. Steeler,
Yes.
Ms. Weaver,
Yes.
Ms. Wellenius.
Yes.
Right. Next two are introductions of ordinances. This means that the public hearing and second vote will be at our May meeting. The first is ordinance 915 for the always stop at Columbia and Seminary. Reggie, if you could read by title.
Ordinance 915, amending Chapter 7A, Traffic Schedules, Schedule 7, Stop Intersections of the Code of the Borough of Hopewell to establish always stop control at the intersection of Columbia Avenue and Seminary Avenue.
Thank you. I know Chris will have a more elaborate presentation in May, but want to do the explanation for this one?
Sure, I just wanted to give a little background about how we ended up here. So at the borough's request, this intersection and other intersections around Hopewell Elementary School were evaluated by the Greater Mercer Transportation Management Association, as well as Hopewell Borough's Pedestrian and Bike Safety Advisory Committee. The GMTMA did theirs in 2022. We did a walking audit around the school, and PBSAC did theirs in 2023. Both the GMTMA and PBSAC determined that traffic calming measures should be added to this intersection, given its proximity to the school and the frequent reports of speeding and cut through traffic on Columbia Avenue. Recently, residents on Columbia Avenue requested that council examine the possibility of installing a four-way stop at the intersection. Given the previous analyses of the intersection by the GMTMA and PBSAC, the borough engineer has approved the four-way stop. As many of you know, the borough was awarded a Safe Routes to School grant, and we are working to implement safety measures included in our application. We have started by focusing on our major roads, which essentially constitute our high injury network, which means that we're focusing on where the majority of crashes have happened to target our treatments there and traffic calming there to start. Sorry, I lost my place. But we are also working to seek funding to implement traffic calming measures on our secondary roads, such as Columbia Avenue. So a four-way stop is basically an inexpensive and the easy way to slow traffic, reduce vehicle-on-vehicle conflicts and vehicle and pedestrian conflicts, and encourage vehicles to yield to pedestrians. And I just wanted to thank the DeCosmo family for advocating for and helping to gather support for this four-way stop and for their support for traffic calming in general throughout the borough.
Thank you, Kristen. I'll take a motion to introduce, which is.
I will,
Do I have a second? Roll.
I'm sorry, who was the second? I didn't hear.
Deb was second.
Mr. Buda?
Yes.
Mr. Fuller?
Yes.
Ms. Hook?
Abstain, because I live there.
Okay.
Ms. Steeler?
Yes.
Ms. Weaver?
Yes.
Ms. Wanius?
Yes.
Thank you. Again, the public hearing will be at our May meeting. Item 12, then introduction of ordinance 916, which is the ordinance to exceed, or sorry, annual ordinance to exceed municipal budget appropriate limits and to establish a cap bank. I may have already mostly read it by title, but Reggie, if you could do that for me.
Borough of Hopewell, County of Mercer, calendar year 2026. Ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriations limit and to establish a cap bank, NJSA 40A:4-45.14.
If Jerry, if you could do the honors of explaining this one as we do each year.
Sure, this is, what this does is it allows
Can
the,
you use the microphone, please? Thank you.
Work.
Or can you speak?
Maybe the one by Art.
this is not permitting the borough to any new spending. You have this currently with the annual budget. Gives you the flexibility to increase the appropriations cap from 2 to 3.5% every year. This does not affect the tax levy cap. This is just the appropriations cap. So the tax levy cap is still 2%, with the exceptions built in by state statute. So this is a routine ordinance that you'll probably see be passed in all 565 municipalities in New Jersey across the state.
Sure. Thank you. I'll take a motion to introduce ordinance 916. Do I have a second?
Second.
We'll do our roll call.
Who was second? I didn't.
Anthony for a second.
Thank you. Mr. Buda?
Yes.
Mr. Fuller?
Yes.
Ms. Hook?
Yes.
Ms. Steeler?
Yes.
Ms. Weaver?
Yes.
Ms. Wanius?
Yes.
Again, the public hearing will be at our May meeting on that as well. Next, we have our consent agenda. Few ones that I'd like to just quickly comment on. As I noted before, this approves our shared service agreement with Hopewell Township for police, and I want to thank their leadership and administrator for working with us over the past year plus on the formula that we use for this. I think it will be something as we go forward, to much to the benefit of our municipality, and really appreciate them recognizing and working with us on that. And also want to thank them, generally, from their chief down, they have been very responsive, to us, and I, with very little, dissent or concern, really hear very positive things about our relationship with Hopewell Township Police Department. So want to thank them, as well. The two last items on this list are, as I think Sarah noted, the issuance of the intent to open up those liquor licenses as well, which requires resolutions. We have an acceptance of the engineering findings from our municipal engineer on the four-way all-way stop on Columbia. Our annual agreement to the Hopewell Valley Municipal Alliance annual grant. We pay a small portion of the fees and join in for grant they request from the state. And our annual shared service agreement with our senior service coordinator with Hopewell Township as well. If there are any further questions or anything anyone would like to pull out from the consent agenda?
Do I need to pull out 49?
I don't really need to, but why don't I'll take a motion for 47 through 49, for everything excluding 49 first. That's Deb first. Do we have a second?
Second.
Paul with a second.
Mr. Buda,
Yes.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Ms. Hook,
Yes.
Ms. Steeler,
Yes.
Ms. Weaver,
Yes.
Ms. Blennies.
Yes.
All right, now, with Sherry abstaining, I will take a motion for resolution 49 from anyone who's not heard. It's Krista, a second, Deb with a second.
Okay, Mr. Buda,
Yes.
Fuller,
Yes.
Ms. Hook, I'm sorry, Ms. Steeler,
Yes.
Ms. Weaver,
Yes.
Ms. Blennies.
Yes.
Right. Next item will be both unique and kind of unceremonious. But first I want to thank our administrator, everyone on the finance team, and our CFO, Diane, for working on our budget. It is, I think, the one item in municipal government that gets 2 votes in a public hearing, but is technically a resolution rather than an ordinance. And I'm not entirely sure why, but that is so. So we will have a resolution to introduce our municipal budget. I'm happy with the work that was done, that does not involve a tax increase, and I thank everyone who was able to effectuate that this year. And both public hearing and presentation, and we should have our CFO here as well for any in-depth questions at our May meeting. So with that, I'll take a motion to introduce our 2026 budget. That's Krista. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Anthony with a second. Thank you.
Mr. Buda,
Yes.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Ms. Hook,
Yes.
Ms. Steeler,
Yes.
Ms. Weaver,
Yes.
Ms. Blennies.
Yes.
All right. I'll next take a motion to approve the claims for payment.
I'll
Do I have a
second.
Thank you, Heidi.
Mr. Buda,
Yes.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Ms. Hook,
Yes.
Ms. Steeler,
Yes.
Ms. Weaver,
Yes.
Ms. Blennies.
Yes.
All right, now we did our proclamations out of order earlier. So I'll next open the meeting to the public. If you're online, start pushing your raise hand button. If you're in person, feel free to come up to the front.
Well, Masters, I had a question about that police agreement. So what are the savings exactly? Because I was looking at the 26 budget, and we budget quite a bit more for the police service, the sheriff service. I think it was plus 50 or 60, whatever. So what is the battle though for this last year?
The amount that the township is spending, that hiring more officers, increased considerably year over year. So they set the budget hire officers, and thankfully, they, in recent years, have had difficulty filling the ranks, and they're better approaching what their full budget should be. So the savings is in the lower percent that we pay. I don't have the figures in front of me, but it was at least 2 digits thousands, like more than 10,000 savings for this year. And the figure, the way that the percentage works is a 3-year average of assessments and pilots. So because their pilot projects are relatively new, 3 years ago, they were almost zero. So for a town that has equalized assessment in the multiple billions, like $4 billion, for this first year, it's only about $83 million in pilots as they get phased in. We're looking at next year or the year after when, like the Beijing project, which is almost $1 billion in value, the rest of Hopewell Park, which is 1,200 homes, when those come online, their percentage will increase dramatically, and we expect as they track forward, our piece of their increasing budget will decrease and may even actually dip lower. So it's
I see they're showing a higher number.
So I'll say it again. So again, we pay a percentage of the budget, right? So if our percentage decreases, but the overall numerator increases, and that's what's happening.
Yeah,
Two components there.
So there's no savings for us, it's still going up versus 25.
And it's going up less than it would have had we not done this. That's
Yeah, but it's, I don't know exactly what the number was, but plus 50 or something.
That's about,
Yeah,
it would have been higher, but not.
about plus 10% or something like that.
Yeah.
9 to 10%. So that's a pretty big number. And there were some other numbers in that budget that for the next meeting that were, well over 10%. Some of the numbers that were in there, so it's a big number. Anyway, thank you.
Okay. Not sure what to do with that, but thank you.
We'll take turns tonight.
Yeah, okay. Hi, everyone. So first I want to say thank you for the Princeton Avenue traffic study. I've been there since 2017. It is insane how fast people go in those trucks and trying to cross on those crosswalks. So thank you. That's awesome.
Yeah, sorry it took so long. We did borrow the speed sentry from the GMTMA and we kind of have to wait our turn for it. So we have requested this like last year.
Oh my God, but thank you. Yeah, no, it's great. And it's so sad, like that pedestrian crosswalk sign is just dead all the time on Princeton Avenue. Yeah, I mean, it's really sad, and I hope maybe with the grant money, like better ones that, can go in. And Chris, I didn't hear what you asked Jerry about what pedestrian.
So the leading pedestrian interval.
What's
So,
that?
I did a presentation on this at the last meeting. Mercer County came to us because they want to add a leading pedestrian interval to the intersection of Broad Street and Greenwood Avenue, which would give pedestrians a 7-second lead time.
Okay.
So, it's not necessarily like a bar and stand, it's like an all stop, but for that 7 seconds, all vehicular traffic will be stopped.
Okay, that's great. I thought I was hearing something really exciting, like it was gonna be all flashing lights, that
I mean,
pedestrian stuff.
Pretty exciting.
It is
pretty exciting,
because-
it's great. I'll be happy not to be
Listen,
run over.
Yeah, I would love to have a barn stand there,
Uh-huh.
but it is a county road and they are also concerned about traffic flow. And I feel like this is a really good compromise because according to their study, that the maximum delay for traffic will be 6 seconds. An additional delay with this, so it's gonna be very minor.
Okay, no, it's great. I just didn't hear, yeah, so that's super. And then so 916, transitioning to 916. So that's just something that you guys, that gets passed every year, the app.
Yes, it's similar to what the school district does too with it creates a bank. If we don't use the appropriations, we can bank it for a couple of years.
But so I didn't understand it when I was on school board. I don't understand it now. Like, so we're passing this bill, this ordinance to say we could go over budget by 2.5, like, is that what?
The appropriations part of the budget, it is worded in a very confusing way, and we don't write those words, the state government and the Division of Local Government Services does. As the mayor said, it allows you to increase to 3.5% just on the appropriation side. So you still have to stay within your tax levy. You still have to, you can't raise taxes by more than 2% less exceptions. So this, if something increases like pension cost increase outside the cap, you would put that outside the cap. So this allows you to bank those costs for 2 years. And if you ever get into a pinch where you have to increase appropriations, it allows you to do that. I don't predict the future, but medical obviously happens a lot. That's probably the biggest increase this year. That's state government charge, not us. So that's essentially what it is. And I agree with you. The wording does not make it user friendly.
Yeah. So have we ever used it in the past? Like we passed it, but have we used that money that we banked?
I don't recall having used it. We each year live generally within our means, but
Yeah, it's possible you probably have just historically and don't realize it because the main focus of the budget typically is the 2% levy cap. So it's possible. I can't say without looking historically, but it wouldn't surprise me if you did.
Right, but with like the expectation is we're not gonna be needing it if the water system is sold and if you start getting the payment in lieu of taxes, like there's gonna be more.
Well, so this is not on the revenue side. This is on the side. So like if we don't have, this doesn't allow us to tax more. It just would allow if we had more funds, through pilots, I suppose, or something else, that we could. We could in the future, I suppose, use them. Up to that percentage.
It's really weirdly worded.
It's just a good tool to have in the toolbox, whether you use it or not. I mean, it's unlikely, especially given the water sale and how the future budgets are going to look in the next couple of years. It's highly unlikely we're going to be financial issues where that becomes an issue.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, everyone.
I have a question for the four-way stop. I'm just curious, I didn't know there was petition and I'm a resident of the street, so that's interesting. But more importantly, are you gonna be able to paint crosswalks? Those should all be, if there's a four-way stop, it would be great to have the crosswalks, because it's a reminder to people if they see those stripes, especially when it's gonna be new, to let those kids cross and parents and stuff. So I don't know who's responsible for that.
Our
but-
DPW does that because that it's a municipal road, and I think they usually do.
Wait, I'm sorry, Columbia's a municipal road?
Yes.
We're the municipal, I'm sorry, that's our road, don't
Yes, that means
So can we,
Yeah,
Is
so
that
our DPW usually does that before school starts in like August, but we can ask them to move that up. See if how.
but I don't think there are crosswalks at Columbia and Seminary, that's what I'm talking about. Where you're gonna put the four-way stop, it would be great to have the crosswalk lines painted.
No, there's crosswalks there.
Pardon me? There
are, yeah.
They must be very faded or I'm very old.
Well, they
That's okay.
probably are, yes.
But it would be great if it was all four ways. The other thing was on the police services, it's really a minor, small thing, but it's until 2030. And if we need new crossing guards because of the new buildings and constructions of 57, we're now responsible for it instead of the township. Is that correct? That's what it
We've
says.
always been responsible for the crossing guards.
Well, it's, okay, I'm sorry, I must have read it incorrectly then.
From financially, we pay a percentage plus the crossing guard.
Because the township agrees to maintain the school crossing guard posts and times, and any additional or times necessary should be an additional cost. So that's what you're saying?
Yeah, essentially, we're allowed to tell them how many we need as long as we pay.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Looking at our online folks, if anyone else wants to push the raise hand button, now would be the time. Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion to close the second public comment portion of the meeting. Do I have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Next, I'll noting that our next meeting is the first back to our regular schedule. This meeting was adjusted because of spring break and Passover, but next month we'll be back to our first Thursday time period. And again, a reminder that next week's planning board meeting on the 15th is at Hopewell Elementary School. With that, I'll take a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll start.
That's Councilwoman Steeler,
I second.
first, and Kristen second. All in favor?
Aye.
So much.